we really want to be changing and what we emphasize to our children, that's important. And even, by the way, for ourselves, what are we emphasizing that we need in our relationships? Is it all exteriors? Is it all what it looks like?
Right.
And if that's what we're emphasizing, we need to do a little bit of a cheshbon for ourselves. We need to look inside and say, why is that something that I'm so, obsessed with? And do I want my kids to feel the same?
Hi, I'm Rivki Silver.
And I'm Alex Fletcher.
And this is Deep Meaningful Conversations, powered by Meaningful Minute.
The podcast where we explore the complexities, nuances, and joys of being a frum woman. Well, thanks for joining us on DMC. We are so happy to have you back. We hope you're also enjoying our mini DMCs that are released in between our main DMC episodes every other week. And they're basically just me and Rivki schmoozing about whatever topic is on our minds, and we hope also on the minds of other frum women as well.
Right, exactly. They're just such fun. I'm so happy that we're doing them. On today's episode, we are tackling body image and body positivity. That's right. So summer is here, and in the secular world, that means one thing for women, basically one thing, right? For women, when it comes to body image, we're thinking about the beach, right?
And what you're wearing on
or
the beach.
Or the pool or whatever. But for frum women, it basically means that we layer less, and maybe we can't hide behind those sweaters and cardigans anymore. Yeah.
And I would love a study. That is what we need on the impact of body image on frum women versus secular society in terms of tznius. Like, since maybe because we cover up more, does that change anything? Like, is there less pressure to look a certain way since we're not showing our bodies as much in the same way? Nah.
I think it's just different.
Yeah, I guess so. I wish we had some data to back us up.
I would love a study on that. That'd be so fascinating. So I guess, how does body image play out, Alex, do you think, for the average frum woman?
Okay, so not that I can speak for all of frum women, but we sort of, have the microphone, and we're gonna share our observations. I think how body image plays out begins very early on. Mm-hmm. And it's the messaging we get as children about our size, about how we look, about how we are fitting into clothes, about our weight, about what we're eating and what we should eat or what we shouldn't be eating. Often based on our relationship with our mothers. And, all of those areas are impacted by messaging.
Right, mothers
or
older siblings.
Or older siblings, too. Yeah. And friends, too.
Yeah.
But, very early on, all of those influences in our lives. And also peers in high school, this becomes a little bit often more, more apparent, what comparing ourselves to what our friends look like and all of that peer pressure. Of course, shidduchim is a very important piece in this, and I'm going to let our guest, Rachel Tuchman, deal with that, and we have a very fascinating conversation in terms of the role of shidduchim and body image and all of that. But, in terms of once a young woman is married, I do think many people feel the pressure to just keep off the weight once you're married. Forget about having children. It's just like, okay, worked so hard to look a certain way for shidduchim and for the wedding.
And for the wedding, right.
And now am I just going to, stop being careful or stop caring? And so there's a pressure to sort of stay the same size. And then certainly, the life stresses of marriage and responsibilities of adult life.
Yeah.
And then, of course, the pregnancy and the weight gain. And then, if a person does inevitably gain weight, the pressure to lose it, what I mean? And get back to normal.
Right, exactly. Pre-pregnancy body.
You remember fitting into your...
that phrase. Let's just ban that phrase entirely.
Well, and don't you remember, we got married ages ago, but the Sheva Brachos suit, it was always this sign of you made it if you can fit back into your Sheva Brachos suit.
Right.
Oh my God, the suits with the buttons and the zips. Thank God that's not in anymore.
No, I was literally just about to say, I think suits are coming back. I thought jacket. Yeah, I think jacket. I mean,
maybe blazers.
Yeah, maybe just blazers. Yeah, I'll take blazers. That's fine.
What about you, Rivki?
No, I think that you hit on a lot of points. The pressures that we have to look good at simchas. I made a bar mitzvah this year, and there was a lot of talk about whatever, not in my house, but just a lot of my friends who were also making simchas. It was a discussion, Like,
Yeah.
what size are you now? And this,
Oh, really? People will have those discussions? Like, what size are you?
Like, no, not like asking other people, but just people talking about their own relationship with their own bodies and where they are holding, as they're making a simcha.
Right.
Like, it just was part of the conversation.
It's that is such a normal conversation. I remember when we made a bar mitzvah, and I'm like, why is it? Like, why is it that I need to lose weight for my son's bar mitzvah? Because someone explained this to me. Because what, they're all going to look at you with a kiddush? Well, guess what? They looked at you 6 months before.
Because the pictures that are going to be on your wall that theoretically will someday go up on my wall. Let's just hope I'll keep everyone posted for when I'm actually going to get that done, but fine. So yeah, I mean, and then also just the idea of like wanting to feel good when you go into a clothing store and you want to feel good trying something on, and all the challenges of walking into a clothing store with our bodies are in such a state of flux, like having kids, not having kids, medication, not medication, like life circumstances, like there are so many factors that can impact the way that we feel about our bodies. And you walk into a clothing store and it's just like, whoa, everyone needs like maybe you should have like a therapist on hand at every clothing store.
Yeah, it's like Judgment Day when you need to buy clothes.
It can be. Like, I feel like there's some days it's like, you go and there's a mazel and you feel good in your body. And then there's other days if you go and if I go and I'm not feeling good in my body that day, I know nothing I try on is going to feel good. So I'm like, fine, go home. It's fine. Do something else. And I think just like the yo-yo of weight gain and weight loss and like, having like multiple wardrobes in a closet. And like, I've had times where I've had like so many different wardrobes in my closet of like, this doesn't fit anymore, but it might, but do I want it to? Right. Should I keep it? Should I not keep it? Right. Should I just go up a size because I need that right now? Like, I don't know. And it's just like a whole thing. And then, of course, like the cycle, of Yantiv and Shabbos and just like the different, you mentioned it in our mini DMC about like, there's different eating patterns. There's just a different way of being with our bodies on those days. And it's much easier to just sit and graze and nash and read and like, and then have like a different just feeling about food and bodies. And it's just all so many different factors that don't exist in the secular world that exist in our world.
That's really interesting.
That affect the way that our relationship with our body.
Well, I will just say Shabbos is such a good point that you mentioned because it's like the relaxing time. So we tell ourselves like, so I could sit and read a book and like eat chocolate bonbons chilling.
How many times have you heard calories don't count on Shabbos?
That's nonsense. But I will tell you, I was listening to the radio and it was before Memorial Day. And the podcast, what is it called?
Program?
No, not the podcaster, the radio host, whatever she was. She's like, Labor Day's coming.
Broadcaster.
Okay, there we go, broadcaster. Labor Day's coming, and I've been working out at the gym for 2 weeks straight because I'm going to eat so many hot dogs, you won't even be able to count them. So I thought that was fascinating. Like, okay, like I don't know if that's good or not. I don't know what Rachel Tuchman would say about like.
It feels very disordered.
Working out for 2 weeks so you could binge on hot dogs. But then I realized also like there's a thing.
Not even that good.
Right, I know. Hot, I'm like, of all things, I wouldn't want to eat 10 hot dogs.
Yeah, I enjoy it. I will enjoy a good hot dog.
Yeah, a good hot dog. For sure,
maybe
two.
Yes, maybe two, exactly. But not like an uncountable amount.
But it was funny, though, because it was like, it's a holiday. And like on a holiday, we relax and we eat a lot of food. So I think it's human nature, whatever holidays we celebrate.
I guess it does exist in the secular world. Never, I stand corrected.
I just thought of that.
That was so fascinating.
Anyway, we do have a montage coming up, but this part of the episode, I think, is going to be the most difficult for both of us because I want us to do the challenging work and ask ourselves the question we asked the woman, which is, do you or did you have body image issues? This is like full disclosure, vulnerability mode here on DMZ. So Rifki, you're going to go first.
Oh, thanks, Alex. Thanks for that. So, it's interesting. I was thinking about this, and the first time I ever remember having like a negative thought, like a negative judgment about my body was when I was, I did this exchange program when I was in high school where we hosted a French exchange student for like 10 days. And then I went to France for 10 days and stayed with a French family with my French teacher and like all of like a bunch of classmates who chose to participate in this program too. It was an amazing experience when I was 16. But I remember getting there and like I was a slim kid. Like I was very active. But my body is my body and it's built the way it's built. And I remember being around all these little, very small, petite French girls. And I just remember feeling like a giant. Huh. And I was like, this is weird. I'm big and they're small. And it was fascinating like that. It was just like, and then all of a sudden I started being, and then I started wanting my body to be different than it was. Like just wishing my legs were a different shape. Wishing, that, I don't know, like I started this joke of like, well, I'm good peasant stock. I'm like nice, solid, like labor in
You're
the
from
fields.
the French countryside.
Yeah, that's right.
Not
like,
Paris.
Exactly. Not the aristocracy countryside here, right? Bales of hay. And
Hysterical. See the danger of comparing yourself?
Oh my gosh, it's
that's
so
when
pernicious.
like you realized that for the
Right.
first time. You never thought of it before.
Correct.
Wow.
And it was fine. And, and it was so right. So, and then of course, obviously in the teenage years in the early 20s, there's a period of deep insecurity, I think, for many people anyways. And I remember being in shidduchim and being told that like the length of my skirt made my legs look fat.
Who told you that?
I'm not disclosing.
I mean, a shadchan?
I'm being mochel. It's fine.
Okay.
But it, but yeah, it was like so.
Did she tell you to wear a shorter skirt?
No, because no. But it was a problem because like the duty length skirts, the ones that were like the appropriate distance below my knees, like was not a quote unquote flattering. But what am I supposed to do? My legs are my legs.
Oh my gosh.
I can't like go make my legs like a different shape. They are what they are. But so fine. So I do want to share a very just eye-opening in a disturbing way experience that I did have maybe a decade ago. Our family went through like a hard time where my sister-in-law was very ill and ultimately she was nifter. And during that period of time, I was really, really, it was horrible, And my reaction to that stressful situation was that I completely lost my appetite and I could not eat.
With stress.
Yeah. And just like the emotional, like everything. And so I ended up losing a lot of weight. And like people commented, of course, like, wow, look at you. Wow. And I'm like, right, because my family is going through trauma.
Wow.
And I cannot eat, which is not healthy.
Right.
Like I'm not taking care of myself. This is not like I made better choices and then this is a result of that happened. It was like and
it almost like digs in the pain even more.
Well, the thing that really was difficult for me was the fact that like I felt so good at being skinnier. I was so happy to be skinnier, and I was like, "This is messed up."
Well, at least you acknowledged.
Well,
that.
yeah, but it was so interesting, like having like, this out of body experience, no pun intended, about how like I achieved this like goal weight or whatever, which was not healthy. It was not healthy for me. I I ended up coming back to a healthier for my body weight, but it was so interesting to see like this is the effect of society on me, that this could be the situation that I'm in and I could lose all this weight for this horrible reason and I could be happy about it and feel good about it and then like be just like in that state of emotional conflict.
So let me ask you a question. Let's say it sounded like most of the responses were very positive, where people were like, "Hey, you look great."
There was someone who asked me if I was okay.
Well, that's what I was wondering.
There was someone who asked if I was also
Is
sick.
that socially appropriate, or would someone be like, would you feel that you wouldn't want someone asking you, is everything okay? Are you okay? I see that you've lost a lot of weight. I mean, I wonder, like, at what point, if that's even appropriate.
I don't really think. I mean, it depends. It depends on the person. If it's a close friend, fine. But if it's just like someone at a simcha, like, no, that's not appropriate.
You wouldn't be like, is something going on in your life?
Right.
Are
like
you not
that,
eating?
Right.
That's weird.
Right. Because it's like, well, you have to know, like, where are you in the social circle?
Right.
But yeah, it was a very, I would love to like be in a society where we just don't even comment on weight at all.
Yeah.
But like I myself, I also do it. I saw someone recently who had lost some weight and I was like, wow, you look great. And then I was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I just said that. I know better. But like it just came out of my mouth.
I think over the past couple decades, we've maybe even less, but couple decades, I think, is a stretch. I think recently we have gotten more sensitive.
Yeah.
Like it always, it's like so accepted to comment on other people's bodies, and I think we're now thinking about it, like who said that you should do that? Like that can be
and to be fair, like if someone is honestly paying me a compliment and meaning it in a nice way, I will accept it in the spirit in which it's intended. If they want to say something to make me feel good, I will take it in the spirit that it's intended. I'm not going to be like, you shouldn't tell me that. But at the same time, I think it is necessary to just say like, but maybe this is something that shouldn't be happening as a society.
And also, I think like,
does that make sense?
I agree. And I think also you're talking about compliments, like let's change the language of the compliment. Instead of, oh, you look so thin, you look good. Why not just say, you look really beautiful. You look very pretty in that dress, or you look really pretty today.
Right. Exactly.
Like let's not talk about people's shapes of their bodies anymore.
Yeah. It's so loaded.
Because we don't know why they're losing their weight. And for many people, it could be they're in a very difficult time.
Right.
I think that's important.
Yeah. So that's my everything.
That's your everything?
No.
Okay.
It's not even everything, as we all know. That was one snippet But like now it's your turn. Now it's your turn,
Okay.
Alex.
So we're talking about do you or did you have body image issues? And I think like similar to what you're saying, Rifki, like it so evolves, you know? I think certainly as a teenager, my biggest struggle was how I looked in clothes. It was like, I think to a fault, I was like a little obsessed about it. So like I had to, you know, fit in the skirt a certain way. I had to make sure, you know, like, and again, let's talk about sizes. I've come to a point now where, okay, so if I need to move up a size, I move up a size. But like then, especially as a teenager, you are a size, whatever your size is, and you better fit into that because there's no way you're...
Otherwise, it's disaster.
It's a disaster.
Disaster.
So I definitely struggled, you know, in my teen years. And I will say, like, even... It's always been something that I've always been, like, acutely aware of. And I'll tell you the sad part about it. Certainly part of it's exacerbated by just, like, your body being public that people can just comment on. You know, I think I do think that I still have a little bit had that experience, and it's always been challenging. And like I knew Rachel in our interview was going to discuss that makes an impact. Like the words people say, commenting about how you look, you know, your weight gain, your weight loss, all of that, it really can impact you in your, you know, your view and your self-image and your body image.
Yeah,
so I certainly, that resonates with me. But the sad piece about this is, you know, there have been times in my life where I always felt I just didn't look good enough or wasn't thin enough. And again, I apologize if any of this conversation is painful or triggering in any way to our audience.
Yeah.
Because this is just so fraught. We're trying to talk about it openly, but I just do want to acknowledge that. And when I've looked at photos of myself at certain parts of like my marriage, and I look and I'm like, man, like I was really thin, but I know then I was thinking that like I didn't look good enough, or I wasn't fitting into this outfit and it's so sad. Not that thinness is the goal, and I want to say that very straight out. Right. But like I definitely have struggled with just being so self-critical that like I didn't even realize like you are beautiful no matter what. Why were you so hard on yourself?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I feel like we should say that again, like for everyone in the back. Like, you know, exactly.
Don't be so hard on yourself. And I am totally, maybe it's because I've given up because life is just too hard. Like now I'm just like totally okay with, you know, okay, I'm, you know, buying this new outfit for this new season, and I'm just not even looking at the size. Like I need to get the right outfit that fits me right, because the sizes honestly don't even mean anything. So I've just really come to the point where just sizes really don't mean very much with different brands, different styles. Right. And like, okay, so this certain cut doesn't work on me. I'll just go a size up, whatever it is. I've come to that place. Thank God I'm in such a different place, and I'm very grateful for it. And I also want to say, I've also come to the place of like really, reinforcing the mantra that my body is not a topic of conversation. And if it becomes that way, I've just been able to shut that down.
Yeah, just move on to a different topic, new topic. Exactly. I know the whole sizing thing. It's so funny because I remember like a few times recently, it's simply like, well, what, like for like getting like a sweatshirt from an organization, or like where someone needed to say like, well, what size object of clothing do we need to give you? And I would just be like, it's a great question. I have no idea, because in such and such brand I'm X size, and such and such brand I'm X size.
And tops and bottoms often change the size.
Yeah. Oh, forget it. And I'm like, I don't know, just pick something, and then if it doesn't work, we'll pick something else.
All this takes so much time. That's what I'm thinking about.
Well, as far as like the
shopping to like find everything that
it's a
fits right.
You got to dive in first.
It is also
you got to dive in first. Say, Hashem, just give me the outfit I need ASAP at hopefully a price that is a good price point.
That's right.
What's it called? No, I was actually thinking about. There was something I had wanted to say earlier about like the current incarnation of body image, which is like they're definitely, again, like, you know, as we get older, we get more comfortable in our bodies.
That's true.
I was thinking about how like there was really definitely a shift for me in the past, I don't know how many years, of like focusing not on like what I look like, but like how I feel. Like, you know, why am I doing X thing? Like, you know, I started exercising in the past like couple years more regularly, and I'm not doing it to lose weight. I'm doing it to be healthy. And I feel like, and I also took that our scale broke, and I didn't replace it.
Smart. I mean, I don't know if that's smart or not, but yeah, in terms of
for me, no, and everyone has to do what works for them. For me, that was freeing.
Yes.
You know? So, and then we did have to get one because whatever we needed, whatever. It was a long story. And then I saw one of my kids was like weighing themselves a lot. So I just like moved it out of the bathroom and it's like hiding now.
Right.
So when we need it, we can take it out.
Right.
But it's not a point of focus.
I remember that as a teenager when you're very black and white, it's just like you're looking at some number and you're like, oh, well, this is the number. So like if you're a 5 above, it's really can be unhealthy.
Forget it. Yeah. I mean, like we could do like a whole article, the Heart Article Help podcast. Okay. Anyways, before we get to the montage, I do want to talk about who is coming onto the show to talk about this loaded topic.
Yeah.
We are thrilled to be having a DMC with Rachel Tuchman, a licensed mental health counselor whose specialty is educating on weight stigma and diet culture, as well as starting conversations about mental health on social media, which she's so good at this. She's so good at doing it. I love her content.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Rachel. But before we get to our conversation, our DMC with Rachel, it is time for the montage. So we asked a few women if they have body image issues and why or why not. And this is what they said.
I struggle with body positivity, but I think I've gotten better in thinking about, in following the intuitive eating methods and just embracing who I am and wearing my size and being okay with this. But really what I wanted to share was I was in a clothing store and I saw two distinguished looking women. They looked like they could be teachers in the school or something like that. And the whole time they were there, they spent the time talking about how fat they were and how terrible they looked. And it made me so sad that this is something that is so deeply ingrained into us, even among people that we look up to and respect. And I felt sad for them. But I took it as a lesson for myself as to how I need to be thinking about and talking about myself and the way I look. Hashem made my body, and it is the way it is because He wants it that way. Obviously, I have things that I can change, and those are up to me. But I should not be just bashing myself, because it's also saying something bad about Hashem's creation.
Body image is a big problem that I've had in the past growing up. You can't walk into a frum clothing store as someone who's a larger size and not feel like you're less than. Unfortunately, it's gotten better over the years with the brands that are more size inclusive and, more messaging about being healthier. But when you walk into a store as a teenager and there's nothing for you except for what styles that your grandmothers could be wearing or an older woman could be wearing, and the sales lady's looking at you and saying, yeah, this is what I have for you, that really can really have an effect. Not to mention being told in shidduchim, you're a larger girl. I'm sorry, you're just going to have a harder time in shidduchim. It's not, and we're not talking, crazy large or morbidly or obese either, just like girls who are not like that size 2, 8, 10, whatever it is.
And then there was also a woman who sent us a beautiful message, a beautiful voice note, but she didn't want the voice note to be shared, but she did give me permission to read what she had shared in her voice note. So these are her words, just my voice.
Great.
So she said, quote, "I do not struggle with my body image. I am very confident in my body because even though it's not skinny, I think of all the things it's capable of and how strong I am and everything that it's been through, whether it's my horrible eating habits, whether it was having 4 kids or putting it through all the exercising that I've been doing lately, and obviously donating a kidney. Everything it's been through, I think my body is amazing. Even though right now I'm pretty heavy and I'm not where I want to be, every time I look at my body, I'm like, you rock, girl. My daughters always tell me, you're so confident, Mom. How are you so confident? You're not even skinny. And I tell them, because skinny is not confidence. Confidence is inside of you. And if you're happy with who you are, then it doesn't matter what your body looks like because your inside is what matters, not the outside. And I like my inside and I like my outside."
Oh, wow.
Yeah, right? Yeah. And I think that that last voice note or whatever, the last contribution to the montage, I just love that attitude of, look at what my body is doing. You know, it's an incredible
Yeah.
just like shift. Like not what does my body look like, but like look at all the things my body can do.
It is a shift. And what she said about confidence is gold. And how sad her daughters obviously have been getting alternate messages because she is such a role model of that confidence, skinny is not, you don't have to be skinny to be confident.
Right.
And that, you know, wherever her daughters are getting that message from, she can come back and she's an example
With
to them.
confidence.
With confidence.
With confidence, yeah.
And that's absolutely true is that's probably the most attractive thing is confidence.
Yeah.
Versus
100%.
yeah.
Just like appearance.
Versus all the details of their appearance. And I want to thank these women who shared these messages with us. This is, you know, it takes us, even though your picture may not be on the episode, I think it takes a lot of courage to, you know, share these thoughts.
Absolutely. We really appreciate it. It's one of my favorite parts of the podcast.
Okay. So now we bring you our DMC with Rachel Tuchman. Welcome, Rachel, to Deep Meaningful Conversations. We are so honored to have you on the podcast.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here.
Great. So we would, you know, today's episode is all about body image. And I know that a focus of your work is really on, you know, weight stigma and diet culture. And I'm so curious how you came to focus on that in your mental health work.
So I actually kind of stumbled into it by accident. I had, you know, in my own life on social media, I was learning a lot about body image and disordered eating and diet culture from some of the therapists that I follow. And I noticed within my work, like once I was seeing that, you know, in my feed, I started noticing in my own work that it was coming up a lot in my office, that people, whenever they were feeling stressed about things, they were turning on their bodies. You know, they were, okay, I'm going to start dieting, or I can't lose weight, or I feel like I'm not getting dates because of how I look, or my husband is not attracted to me, or even little girls as young as 8 years old saying things about their bodies that were really upsetting and disturbing to me. And so I just started seeing that it was really like in every aspect of my work, you know, so much anxiety was triggered by feeling uncomfortable in their skin, or like I said, having anxiety and then turning to try to like manage their bodies to manage their anxiety.
Wow.
So I just started to learn a lot more about this. And I started taking courses and I became certified in intuitive eating, working with dietitians. And since then, since I've been talking about it on my social media, this is something that thankfully a lot of people in the Jewish community do want to start talking about and want to start changing. We have a lot of work to do, but thankfully there is that openness and receptiveness to it, because I think people realize even if they're not fully on board, you know, with adults having this problem, a lot of them don't want their kids and teens, and specifically girls, because it's a lot more common in girls. They don't want their girls having this issue, struggling with their bodies and struggling with eating, and they understand the impact that it has on them physically and emotionally. So, you know, that's kind of how I got into it. I started learning about it. I became passionate about it. I have 3 girls of my own. And I remember as a teen how I felt about my body and my struggles with dieting and body image. And I do not want them to have the same thing because of anything I do. I understand they live in a world where they're going to get those messages regardless of how hard I try. But I do at least want to arm them with a voice in their head that says, okay, I know you just saw that ad, or I know you just heard that thing, but here, listen to like Ima, mommy's voice in the back of your head that says they're going to try to tell you that about yourself, but you don't have to listen, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I love that role that we can take, you know, and I think that's really inspiring how you decided as a parent, like you acknowledge that the outside world will give them messages, or even messaging in our Orthodox community, which we'll talk about, but that you have a role as a mother to you know, arm, like you said, to arm your children with the right mindset. I love that.
Yeah. Absolutely. I remember the first time my daughter said something to me about my daughter who's 9 years old. She's 10. She's 10 actually. And she said something. I was like, where is this coming from? Wow.
Yeah.
You know, so little.
As young as 3rd grade, I mean, it can happen even like in preschool, but as young as like 3rd grade, they start talking about I'm fat, or my tummy's too big, or my thighs are too big. And it's like, kids should really not be weighed down by these things. They should not be burdened by those thoughts about their body. And if you ever watch like a little kid play, or even with their friends. Like, it's really so beautiful how they're not self-conscious at all. They're not body focused at all. They're just like having fun and living freely. And you see the shift as they get older. They start becoming self-conscious. They start, maybe wearing a sweatshirt in the summer, or they don't want to wear a bathing suit in front of their friends anymore, or they don't want to wear certain things, or they're, and they start really feeling uncomfortable in their skin. And that's not just because their body is changing. I know people like to say, oh, they're uncomfortable because their body's changing, but they don't have to be uncomfortable that their body's changing. Somewhere along the way, they get the message that that's not good. In those prepubescent years from around 8 till 11, 12, when they start putting on more weight because their body is changing and their body needs more fat and it needs more weight, they start feeling self-conscious, maybe because their mother is like, oh, your skirt doesn't fit. Oh, it fit you a month ago. What happened, right? We start feeling shame. We start feeling embarrassed. Like, shoot, oh, your sister wore that when she was your age. How come it doesn't fit you? They start, oh my gosh, I'm bigger than my sister. I can't. There's just a lot of shame that starts coming up. And so we have to be so careful to let our kids know your body is doing exactly what it's supposed to do. If you have a hang up about weight, work on that. And that's why a lot of the time I do work with parents who themselves have a hard time accepting their child's body because they don't want to cause that harm. And that's so important. And if a parent ever comes to me, of course I take them without judgment, without, oh, what do you mean you don't like that your child is getting bigger, or you're worried that she's fat? Let's work on that. Yes, I'm so glad that you noticed that this is a feeling you don't want to have,
Yeah, amazing. You are a health at every size clinician. Can you explain to us and our listeners what that means?
Yes. So health at every size is the public health approach that seeks to de-emphasize weight loss as a health goal and to reduce stigma towards people who are in bigger bodies. And so what I do is, it's basically, there's 5 principles. Weight inclusivity is one of them. So that means that we accept and respect that bodies are diverse. They come in all shapes and sizes, just like we know that people can be 4'5" and 6'2", and people can have brown hair and blonde hair and big hands and small feet and big feet. We also understand that bodies can be in different sizes, and we don't pathologize them. So we don't say, oh, that person's fat because they eat a lot or they don't exercise. That person's fat just because they genetically have more fat on their body. That's what it is. Or maybe they're on a medication that makes them gain weight, or whatever it is. People are in bigger bodies, and that's okay. Health enhancement is another principle. So we support health policies that improve and equalize access to information and services that improve well-being. So that means we teach doctors about weight stigma. We teach therapists about weight stigma, about when someone comes into your office and they're, binge eating, we don't tell them to go on a diet. We recognize that there is an emotional piece there that needs to be talked about, and that weight loss is not the goal. We talk to other practitioners about weight stigma and fat phobia, eating for well-being, right? We talk about flexible and individualized eating. We talk about hunger and satiation and nutritional needs and pleasure, rather than this like rigid eating plan, that's only for weight loss, right? And that you only eat for food is fuel. Like that is one piece, but food is also memories, and it's tradition, and it's joy, and it's so many things, right? And we don't just eat when we're hungry and stop when we're full. Sometimes we're not hungry, but we eat the birthday cake because we're at the celebration and it's part of the celebration, And sometimes we eat the matzah not because we're hungry, but because we have that halachic, whatever that we're supposed to eat it. And like, we don't love the matzah, but we eat a little bit of it, right? So because there's tradition. So we don't always eat just because we're hungry. Also respectful care, right? So that's, again, working to end weight discrimination, looking at when people come into a professional office, that they're treated properly and with proper care and ethical guidelines, and then life enhancing movement. And so that's supporting physical activities that allow people of all sizes to engage in enjoyable movement. So that means talking with personal trainers and people who own gyms and physical therapists to talk about ways to make their gyms more inclusive, so that it's not like you're only here to burn calories and get into, get that summer body. It's about movement is so helpful for our mental health, for our bodies, that when you're lifting weights, let's say in the gym, it's not so that you can have cut arms. Maybe that's one person's goal, but it's so that you can lift those grocery bags. So you carry your baby, so that you can strengthen your bones, so that when you're 80 years old, God willing, you could go bike riding with your grandkids or great grandkids, right? Movement is about so much more than making your body look different. It's about enhancing your life. So that's really what the health at every size, paradigm is.
Wow. It's so comprehensive. It's amazing.
Yeah.
And I've seen a bit of this on social media. Do you feel that this philosophy has made inroads generally like in the frum community, whether through like frum media or just as like mindset shifts in the community? I mean, I see a little bit in Family First, a little bit more about body positivity. I see they've really been trying to, address that.
Slowly getting in there. I do see it's misinterpreted often, which is upsetting because I feel like these things can get, when you miss the point, they can get a little bit, I think they can be used in the wrong way. So yes, people are starting to realize that focusing on people's bodies, specifically, I feel like definitely with teens and like the dating world, people are kind of getting fed up with, the surface, shallow ridiculousness that is kind of being perpetuated with pictures and, what size is she and what size is her mother, and whatever size her mother is, then I'll know when she's 40 what she looks like, right? Like this ridiculousness. So I think people are starting to get a little fed up, and they're like, okay, maybe I do like this body acceptance, health at every size, body respect thing. But I find that sometimes when they're spoken about in some of these publications, there still is like but at a certain weight you should lose weight, so I feel like we're almost there. But again, I think any discussion is a good start, and I would love for the conversation to continue. And I think it's important, even if we get people just to start thinking like, oh, okay, like, are there things other than my weight and my body size that I can focus on that, that helps my health, that helps my well-being, that enhances my life? Then I think that's a start.
I have a question though, like within this philosophy, and I've heard this as sort of like the critique, like, is there a point where one would say, okay, well, this person is at an unhealthy weight, and does need to lose weight because for health reasons, and no, like, we're not gonna, accept, I don't want to say like you're explaining, like, accept all body sizes, but is there a point where it's like, no, I need to work on my body sizes, I'm not healthy right now?
So weight at any extreme is never okay, right? So even like someone who's very, very thin, that's dangerous, right?
Right.
And someone who, let's say, is in a much, much larger body, that could also create health issues. But there are two things that I say to that. Number one is that we know that weight loss attempts don't work, and they can actually worsen health. So I would say, instead of focusing on let's shrink your body, I would say, let's look at your behaviors. How are you eating? Not restrict. Let's add in more fruits and vegetables and water. And let's take a look. Let's make a meal plan that helps you to nourish your body in a way that is good for your health. How are you moving? Are you exercising? Why not? Is it because when you go to the gym, they talk about weight loss and you hate going, so you don't go at all? Is it because someone told you that you can't move because you're fat, so then you don't move? Let's get you into a movement routine that feels good. How are you sleeping? Let's talk about your sleep habits. Are you up all night, on a phone scrolling through Instagram, feeling horrible about your life? Let's start better sleep patterns. Are you drinking alcohol? Are you smoking? Let's talk about behaviors first, because we know that behaviors impact health. And sometimes when people engage in healthier behaviors, sometimes they lose weight, sometimes they don't. Sometimes weight changes. And then that's why people say, oh, weight loss improved your health, when in reality, it's like, no, you started exercising.
That's fascinating.
More fruits and vegetables and drinking water, right? Are you hydrating? Also, what's your stress like? We know that stress can increase cortisol, which is a stress hormone, which can cause weight gain, right? How are your stress levels? Are you talking to your mother-in-law day in, day out, and you don't really want to talk to her because she stresses you out and she's judging? And I'm sure everyone's mother-in-law here is wonderful. Even your mother or your sister. Are you involved in family drama? Do you hate your job? Is your marriage in a rut? Are you taking care of yourself? Stress is also something that impacts our body. So I would say we need to switch the focus. And that's what I often talk to doctors about. Let's take the focus off of let's look at the scale, and let's look at your behaviors.
Amazing.
That's one thing. But I would also say that, and I know some people say health at every size. Oh, but you're not healthy at every size. And it's not every body is healthy at size. It's you can achieve health at any size. So it doesn't mean that because you're fat, you cannot, take care of your health. Everybody should have the right to take care of their health if they want to. But that's something else that we need to keep in mind, is that health is very personal and no one owes us their health. So if we see someone who is not taking care of their health, and by the way, it could be someone who's not in a bigger body, but they're smoking and they're drinking and they're this and we can let them know that we're concerned about them. So health is no one owes us health. So if people make decisions not to take care of their health, sometimes it's hard, especially if it's someone you love, not to say anything or not to judge. But we also have to remember, like, it's a very personal thing. Not everyone is able to take care of their health in the way that they want to because of time or money or access or whatever it is. And again, we have to just focus on also mental health is a huge part of our physical health. So exercising and eating all the right things and doing everything, all that checklist. But if you're not feeling good up here in your head, you're still not taking care of your health, And so we have to remember that support and love and unconditional acceptance is also a big part of helping people with their health.
Beautiful.
Wow. Okay, so in terms of DMC, we really try to tie things into the experience of frum women.
Yes.
And I mean, as you're speaking, right, I'm just thinking, it's just such a fascinating topic. And I'm certainly thinking in my own ways how this applies to frum women. But I would love to hear from you, Rachel, and your expertise, what the main challenges you see frum women deal with when it comes to body image.
Yeah. So I just want to start by just like defining that body image is basically like our internal view of our bodies and how we think people perceive them. So it's really not actually based on what your body actually looks like. It's just how you think and feel about your body. And I find that frum women specifically tend to, we are growing up in a world that not just in the non-Jewish world is telling us that thinner is better, thinner is healthier, but there's a lot of pressure for girls to feel like they need to look a certain way in order to be beautiful, in order to be worthy. We normalize a lot of disordered behaviors, I think specifically in the Jewish community, because pre-bar mitzvah, okay, family diet, guys.
Yeah.
You gotta look good for the pictures. Oh, the dress has to fit you. God forbid we should let the dress out a little. The dressmaker, she needs to make it smaller. Like, come on, guys, family diet. And by the way, it's well-intentioned a lot of the time, Like I had a client who told me when she was 12 years old, she was 11 and a bit, her mom put her on a diet before her bat mitzvah because she wanted her to look good in her dress. And it came from such a good place. Her mother was not like, oh, you're fat. Like, it was just like, I want you to look pretty in the dress and we want to make sure it fits. So let's put you on a diet. But that is carried through with this girl until she's, a young woman now. And it's something that still really impacts her and she struggles with it. So, we normalize a lot of this. We say, I see this also in shuls even. I've seen like weight loss challenges that like the rabbi is heading and like really I don't understand that because rabbis know that in their community there's eating disorders, and we know that dieting is the strongest predictor of an eating disorder. And not everyone.
Do we know that? I never heard that before. Is that just common knowledge? I never got that memo.
I'm not in this world.
So not everyone that diets will develop an eating disorder, but everyone who has an eating disorder has a history of dieting.
Wow.
Fascinating.
So that is the strongest predictor. And if you speak to anyone who's had an eating disorder, it always starts out innocently enough. I just wanted to lose a few pounds. And from there, it kind of spirals. It turns into either the focus on weight loss shifts to control and, it feels good to be good at something, or, like this is something that I get a say in, and I can control my hunger. I can't control anything else around me, but I can control what I put in my mouth, or,
and then if they get that positive feedback from their peers, oh, you look amazing. Wow. What are you doing?
Without even asking, hey, how did you lose that weight?
Okay. Right. Or it's suddenly more dates, right? She looks amazing. Did you see her? Oh, the shopman's passing stuff around now. So we reinforce it. But I think we normalize a lot of that, So I think we normalize a lot of these behaviors, and we act like this is like something we're supposed to do. Like when your daughter comes back from seminary, she should go on a diet because clearly she gains, the seminary, whatever it is, the 15 pounds, or she's dating, so she needs to start like being more conscious of her physical appearance, which again is like, why do you want to tell your daughter that that's something that should be important to her future partner, that her appearance is the most important thing that she should be like selling, right? That she should be showing people like, look, I'm beautiful. What about I'm intelligent and I'm kind and I'm giving and I'm passionate about things and I'm a doer and what about all those qualities, So I think we get very lost in the physical, which I think is so antithetical to who we are as Jews and what we believe about relationships,
Right.
And about marriage in general. Like, yes, attraction is so important, but to dictate that there's one way of looking and that there's one objective, idea of beauty is really, I think, very toxic. So I think that that's kind of where it is that we normalize these behaviors, and that it starts with, the bar mitzvah, the bat mitzvah, the wedding, the this, that, and just even how we talk about food, right? Like, even when Yontif is coming, like, oh my God, food fest, I'm going to need to go on a diet afterwards, doing that juice cleanse for 3 days after.
Right.
Oh, I can't have any cheesecake this Shavuos. Like, I'm watching myself. Again, like, our kids are listening to how we talk about food. They're hearing it. They hear, we bash our bodies, like we bond with our friends over, oh my, another meal. I'm not eating tonight. I can't, and I'm not eating tonight because I'm just stuffed and I don't want to eat anymore, but I'm not eating because I feel like I'm gaining weight and I feel bad about myself. So kids learn, this is how grown-ups talk. This is what they value. This is what they think about fat bodies. This is what they think about weight gain. Like, this is the most horrible thing I could ever do. And by the way, then this impacts how they view their spouse if their spouse gains weight, how they view their, the girl that they're dating or the guy that they're dating if he's in a bigger body. Oh, like, I remember my parents talked about, this is like the worst thing you can do.
Right.
You must really not care about your health and your physical appearance if you're in a bigger body. So there's that judgment automatically. So I don't think we realize like what we're doing to relationships and to our relationships with ourselves when we have these conversations. So I think it's really important that we pay attention to that, because it has like a lifelong impact.
Right. But weight has like a value, attached to it.
Right. This judgment value. Yeah.
And when we teach our kids, by the way, that you can't trust yourself with food, right? So I'm going to tell you what to eat and I'm going to tell you how to manage your body. That effect carries with them then, and and I've seen it in my work, sadly, to relationships even. I don't know how to pick a partner. So I just pick the partner that I think I should get. It's the only one I'll get because of how I look or because my parents tell me I should marry this person, even though I don't like them. And then they're stuck with someone who has all kinds of issues that they knew were there, but they didn't listen to themselves, or things come up and it's just not a healthy marriage. And because they learned very early on, you can't trust yourself. Don't listen to your gut. I'm going to tell you. Then they end up making bad decisions in their parenting and their marriage. So again, it's so important to teach our kids early on. Your body knows what to do and you know how to listen to it. Yeah, I'm here to guide you. Obviously, we don't want our kids grazing all day long. Just from a dental point of view, it's not good for their teeth. And we want them to have structured meals, but we're not supposed to be telling them like, no, that's enough. You ate too much. You ate too little. Like, let our kids learn to tune into what their bodies are telling them. Because again, that has long-lasting impacts.
Well, like really far-reaching consequences of just like having a very pervasive impact on a person's intuition and their intuition in themselves.
Right?
Yeah,
so fascinating. Making choices for yourself.
Yeah,
if you felt controlled.
Yes,
as a child.
Right. Wow. We touched on it already, like a little bit about the pressures of body size when it comes to shidduchim. So can we dive into that issue a drop more and tell us about the issues that you're seeing, and then what changes do you feel like should be made if in our ideal world where we fix all of the problems in Klal Yisrael from the podcast? Let's go.
Right? You never know. Maybe we'll start today.
Yeah.
I think that we need to, as parents, it starts with us. We need to challenge what we're told about what's healthy and what's beautiful. We have to understand that we are so much more than our bodies and how we look. And we need to tell our kids early on. Again, think about how you're talking about yourself, how you're talking with your friends, and how you talk to your kids. We need to emphasize that beauty is not something that can be determined by every single person. It's so individualized and it's so subjective. And for each person, they need to decide what they think is beautiful. And again, physical attraction is one piece, but I'm sure you guys can attest to this. Like, it evolves, And I always say I'd say this to my teenage daughter often. I'm sure she rolls her eyes inside, but she smiles on the outside. Be like an older couple together. I'll say like, isn't it amazing? Like, and we see that they're holding hands and they look so cute and they look so, like adorable. And you can tell that they're doing their Shabbos walk together or whatever it is. I say, isn't it amazing how they've been together a long time. And like, look at how like deep their love is, like their connection. They're spending this time together. They're going on a walk. Like, it's so beautiful, like how love really evolves, you know? And I say to her, like, it's so interesting that like they met so long ago and like they still have this like deep, beautiful connection. And in my head, I'm thinking also, he's not thinking, man, I wish you looked like you're 20. She becomes more beautiful to him and he becomes more beautiful to her as the years go on. That love and attraction grows and builds and evolves and changes through all their ups and downs. I saw you go through that hard thing and we came out together as a couple. We went through it, raising the kids. Maybe we had a child who was challenging. Maybe we had losses and we did it together. And you are so beautiful to me, right? They're not thinking about like, you know, maybe there should be some Botox. Like, they're not thinking about that, right? That attraction becomes so much more deep and meaningful. And we want our kids to know that physical attraction is one tiny piece. And by the way, it's not going to hold your relationship together. It's not, because they can be the most stunning human being on earth. But if they don't treat you nicely, and they abandon you and they engage in habits that are dangerous or put your family at risk, that's not good for you. You know, so we really want to be changing and what we emphasize to our children. That's important. And even, by the way, for ourselves, what are we emphasizing that we need in our relationships? Is it all exteriors? Is it all what it looks like?
Right.
And if that's what we're emphasizing, we need to do a little bit of a cheshbon for ourselves. We need to look inside and say, why is that something that I'm so, you know, obsessed with? And do I want my kids to feel the same? So I think just shifting that, you know, and something that's interesting is I think there was this research that I saw that said by the age of 17, you've seen over 20,000 advertisements telling you what beauty is. That's 44 ads a day that, you know, especially kids are on social media. They're on TikTok, they're on Instagram, they're driving around, they're seeing 44 ads a day saying, this is gorgeous. This is beautiful. So we really have our work cut out for us. And that's why I say, like, I know I'm talking to my kids about this, but I know they go out in the world and there are messages that are they're contradicting what I'm saying. You know, they're like, hey, okay, well, yeah, but now I see this billboard or now I see that magazine on the stands. So we really have our work cut out for us, but it has to be a constant conversation. Like, yeah, you know what? The world will tell you that this is what makes a happy marriage or this is what makes a good shidduch. But that's not the values that we hold in our family. And look at me and daddy, or look at, you know, mommy and me. Like, this is what we think is important. And this is what builds a healthy home and a happy family. And this is what we think would help you to feel the most, you know, complete and happy and fulfilled in your life. And hopefully we set enough of a good example that our kids say, yeah, that is what I want, you know, that is something that I want for myself. So I think that's important to just de-emphasize the physical characteristics. And again, I know that there have been questions asked, literally, what size is her mother? Because they're trying to determine what will she look like when she's her mother's age, which is like outrageous.
Which is false anyway.
Right.
That too, yes. Right? Like, not at all. I don't look like my mom. We have different body types. So it's not the same. And again, like, that's not taking into account that there could be medical conditions. There's so many different things that impact how your body looks. But the fact that that's even a question is outrageous to me, because that shows me we are starting off on the wrong foot. That is not what a marriage is supposed to be. So I think that we need to stop asking those questions. If you are a matchmaker and someone asks that question, you can say, like, I'm not answering that question. It's really not important. And it tells you nothing about who this girl is, you know? I also think it's so interesting, and I think we should pay attention to the double standard. No one's asking what size is his dad. We're not asking those questions. It's so much more on the girl. And so I think that we need to, if you are a matchmaker, and I get pushback from matchmakers when I say this, like, don't give that information. Yeah, but then they're not going to. But if we would all band together, matchmakers, and we would say, we're not going to answer these questions, the questions would have to stop, you know? We're not going to give in to these demands. The demands would have to stop, you know? So I think that if we don't enable that behavior, or if we speak out against it and we say, I know that you feel like that's important, but I'm just going to try to give you a different perspective here. Even that could be something that's very helpful.
Like plant a kernel, basically.
Quietly take it. That's perpetuating the problem. And I wish even that more rabbis would get up from the pulpit and talk about these things and say, like, hey, we have gone astray. Somewhere along the way, we lost the message here of, like, what's important.
And why? like, where did this come from? Why are we focusing so much on the externals? And in general, like, so much of, like, the look or the type, you know, like, we want this kind of look to become this type of family, you know what I mean? And I think it's so damaging to our girls. I wonder if you have any insights on, like, why this became so prevalent.
So I'm not sure. I know that our community, it's interesting because as much as we're people that are very like internal and spiritual, we do have a lot of externals that give us information, you know, so we know based on if he wears a black hat, or we can assume something about a person. Again, he can wear a black hat and not be that kind of person, but
right. And by the way, to clarify, I'm not talking about those types of externals, which I think is your point well taken, which is that externals do matter to a certain extent in our from communities.
Right? So I wouldn't say like we should never look at that because it does give us information. Right. You know, how a person covers their hair. Again, doesn't give us information about their level of religiosity, because I know people that don't cover their hair that I think are much frummer than I am and much more connected to Hashem than I am. But again, it does give us some kind of information of like where they are in the religious world. So those things are not meaningless. But I think when it becomes the only thing that we're looking at and the only thing that we're emphasizing, and then to the point where we think, well, I just have to look the part, but we forget to do the inner work. That's the problem. And I think that we've gotten very caught up in it. And that's kind of, I think it kind of is like the same thing as like, you know, when people like make some money, they're like, oh, I just need a little bit and then I'll be okay. But once you have a little bit, you want more, you want more, you want more. So I think that's kind of what happens here. Like we understand that externals are, you know, they're not meaningless, but I think we got very caught up in them. The tablescapes, the house, the car, what neighborhood she lives in, what sheets she has, what kind of skirt length. And then it's out of control. And again, we're not even seeing the person anymore. We're just seeing like the surface.
And these girls feel real pressure to be a certain size as a result.
Yes, a certain size, a certain look, a certain, facial structure, a certain aesthetic, like going to plastic surgeons even. Well, a shopper told me I should, get
hair extensions. A little cheaper than the plastic surgery, but
eyelashes. And again, if you like eyelashes for yourself, go ahead. But if you're doing it because you think without them you're ugly and you are not like, you're not someone that's going to get dates, and so please don't do that. Do it because you love it and you feel beautiful, not because someone told you without it you're like a dog and they can't help you. So I think that's something that we need to think about. Like, are we doing it for ourselves because we feel like it enhances what we love and respect? Or are we doing it because we feel like we're doing it from this place of unworthiness of like, well, if I don't, I'm never going to get dates, and I'm ugly and I'm not good looking and I'm not marketable or whatever it is,
Yeah. It's a lot of introspection, like on all fronts. Like, what are we doing societally? Like, why are our values getting this way? Do you feel like there is an uptick in the focus on appearance, like since in the past like decade that social media has been like rising, and we've just been bombarded? We see so many more things. We don't just see within our Dalet Amos or when we go to family for a simcha. We just see all the time pictures of everything, everywhere, and people, and photoshopped pictures. I mean, not even realistic pictures. Not even like, oh, I went to a kiddush and look, oh, she looked great, whatever. It's like, no, I saw this digitally enhanced photo of someone using a filter, and now I feel insecure about myself. Right?
It's
or
this like
teens.
stunning reel with like gorgeous music and like all this beautiful like video work, right? No, definitely. We live in an age and a time where everything is very visual, where everything is like making things look beautiful and enhancing them, but to like an unrealistic, kind of extent. And I think it's so interesting that even the people that we know, like if there's celebrities that people follow, or just even, they don't even have to be like Hollywood celebrities, just like Instagram celebrities that people follow. Like I think they call them micro influencers, right? Even with, let's say, all the work that they're doing on themselves, let's say they're getting cosmetic work, they're still using filters, they're still using Photoshop. So we have these like unrealistic images in front of us that we're taking in all the time. And that's why I'm saying we need to pay attention to the impact that has on us. Because if we think that's reality, that, oh, I follow this influencer and she goes on these like gorgeous vacations with her husband and she has this stunning house, and then I turn around and I look at my house and I'm like, what?
Where would I even take a video in this house? Do I have a wall that even looks good enough?
There's a reason we're doing your house and not mine, but also.
Then you start feeling horrible about your life. When if you had never seen that, you might actually be okay and be
Yeah,
satisfied.
right.
But we're always being shown something different, something better, something more. And it's supposed to create a dissatisfaction because that makes money.
That's
Right.
right.
That
I
makes
just,
money.
yeah. I just started watching The Social Dilemma.
Yes. Yes.
Recommend that. I only saw like a third of it, but it's sort of frightening. I mean, here we are promoting everything on social media, hopefully Lato for good, but it's sort of frightening when you see why these mediums were created in terms of manipulation
right.
and money making.
That's scary.
And by the way, all social media is not bad. There's so much good that is
Correct.
on there. And there's so much, I think, again, like stuff like this and mental health information, which again, everything has the potential to be good or bad because too much mental health information, you could be diagnosing yourself from here to tomorrow with everything under the sun. But again, in moderation, it can be so helpful, and it can be actually a supplement in between therapy for things that are helpful for you. So there's always potential for good with these things. And then there's potential for bad, but it's our responsibility. And this goes back to, the physical appearance and the externals. It's our responsibility to keep checking in with ourselves and saying, is this in line with who I want to be? Is this in line with my values? Is this in line with what I want to transmit to my kids about what's important? Am I doing this because it feels good for me, or because I feel like I need to impress her across the street, or this guy, or why am I doing this? Right. Always checking in with ourselves and making sure like this is coming from a place that it makes me feel good for the right reasons, not because I have to try to impress someone. Because if that's always our goal, we will never feel full. We will constantly be doing it. And there will always be someone that's not impressed.
Right.
So it's just like a futile, goal to be chasing.
Yeah, it's something we try to address a bit on the podcast.
Sure.
And I must say, even though this is not a deep dive into shidduchim, this episode, we are talking about it. And I must just give voice to those that feel also it's not just about the girls who want to meet like a certain, I don't know, standard in terms of appearance, but also many people have explained to me it's what the boys are wanting, and it's what the boys' mothers are wanting, and where are the boys impacted? How are they impacted in terms of the ideals, in terms of what they're looking for, physically in terms of a future wife?
Right. So again, it goes back to how we speak about bodies and how we speak about ourselves. So if your sons are growing up with sisters and mothers who are always talking about dieting and how being thin is the most important thing, that's what they're going to think. That's what their wife should always want for herself, to be a certain size, that thinness is better, that it's cool, that's something that's beautiful. So again, that's why I'm saying we don't understand the far-reaching impacts of talking about that stuff in front of our sons and daughters, that's what they believe. So we have to be very careful. If you're going to weigh yourself, do it so that they don't see. If you're going on a diet, again, they're going to know. So you can't really hide that. But think about what's the impact of what I'm doing right now. And again, if I'm looking at pictures and I'm like, oh, I look so fat. Right. What are you telling your kids about what it means to be fat? That's disgusting. It's ugly. It's embarrassing. It's shameful. So if I'm with a partner who gained weight post-baby and she's not losing it, I'm embarrassed to be at a simcha with her. I'm embarrassed that she's eating at the kiddush because it's shameful. It's ugly. It's fat. It's sloppy to be in a bigger body, right? So again, we're putting messages into their heads, and people don't understand the power of their words and their behavior on their children. But understand, your children are black and white thinkers when they're young. They're not abstract. So when you say being fat is bad, eating this is bad, this food is unhealthy, they're thinking, I am bad if I'm in a bigger body. I am bad if I eat cupcakes. I am wrong if I am good if I eat apples.
Right. Good and bad.
They don't understand. Yeah. So we have to stop moralizing food. We have to change how we talk about food and bodies. We have to stop talking about diets. We have to stop complimenting weight loss. Shifi looks amazing. So good on her diet. She lost 3 pounds of her Pesach. Could you believe who loses 3 pounds of her Unbelievable. The willpower and the discipline. She's incredible. And again,
self-control.
Right.
And then we're teaching that people that diet are like somehow like better. They have more willpower. They're just better people. They're higher, more, like in terms of like their worth as human beings. Stop doing that and stop blaming bodies for our issues. Stop telling girls or boys that the reason they don't have a shidduch is because of how they look or because of how they, how big or small they are. Like, it's not. And I've heard, by the way, shadchans tell guys, like, you're too short. Like, what's he supposed to do?
We'll just put him in some heels. We'll be fine.
Yeah, platform lifts.
But I know, by the way, that there have been stories of boys that put lifts in their shoes.
No.
ourselves a little bit of height. Yes, which is
Sure.
outrageous. Why are we punishing people for the bodies that they were given by God?
Right.
There is someone for everyone.
Yes.
And we need to have that attitude of, and by the way, even if it's not your ideal person, it might be someone else's ideal. And if you're the shadchan, you're not looking someone for yourself, you're looking for someone for that person. So it
Right.
doesn't matter if you would date them or not. Would this person date them? Is it possible that this person might find their personality endearing and lovely and whatever it is? And so I think we need to just, again, reevaluate how we talk, how we speak in our homes, how we speak in front of our kids, challenge how we value our own bodies, and just even do some of our own like work around body image, identifying those thoughts that we have about our own bodies and about bigger bodies, recognizing, how we speak about them. And I think that's something that needs to change.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I know that there are many of our listeners who are listening to this, and a lot is resonating. It's certainly resonating with me. And there are a lot of people who are listening who are like, listen, acknowledging that, I have body image issues, like that I'm struggling. So what do you think has just been like the most helpful guidance that you've been able to give women who are struggling with body image?
So I think that it's important to, like I said, identify and challenge those negative thoughts anytime that you, let's say, again, not every day. When I talk about body image work, people think that it's like there's like an end game. But this is actually something you're going to do your entire life, because our body image is always changing. And by the way, it can change like within an hour. So you can wake up and feel great and then get dressed and then you're like, oh, so good. But then you go downstairs and you move around and you're busy during the day and then you feel good. And then you get home and you look in the mirror and you're like, ugh. But then you get in your pajamas and you feel like, oh, okay, I'm in comfortable clothes. I feel good again, right? It's always changing. So we just have to understand that it's not going to stay the same, and that in every moment, no matter where we're at, we just have to focus on respect. Respect my body. Feed it, move it, nourish it. Surround myself with people that love me and care about me. Tell myself nice things. Speak to myself the way I would speak to my child if they were having the struggle. A friend, if they came and said the same thing to me. Recognize that underlying motivation for criticism. Again, sometimes we will start criticizing our bodies when there's something deeper going on. So I went somewhere and I felt left out, or I felt like I didn't fit in. And so now I'm blaming my body. Or I feel like my marriage is maybe going through some tough stuff. And instead of looking at what the real issues are, I'm blaming my body. Or I'm looking at my partner and I'm blaming his or her body. But really, I'm frustrated that I feel like he's not doing everything he can for our family, or that she's, putting herself first, or whatever. There might be something underneath blaming the body. So I think that's important. Appreciate what your body can do versus what it looks like. And this is so important to tell our kids, right? Our body is not an ornament. It is an instrument. Something that helps us to do things. It is a vehicle in this world. And and that means not that we don't care about it. Of course we care about it. We nourish it. We brush our hair. We put on nice clothes. But that is so that we can go out in the world and do things, right? Not so that we can like sell ourselves and be on the cover of a magazine. That's not what we have to do. Wear clothes that fit. And whenever I say this, people are like, yeah, of course. But there's so many people that are squeezing into things that make them feel so uncomfortable in their bodies. They feel more body conscious. When you're wearing something that doesn't fit, you feel that it's pinching, or you'll feel that there's a roll that feels uncomfortable. Wear clothes that feel good on your body so that you're not distracted by it, so that you can go and do what you have to do. And this is the most important piece, I think, if you are on social media. Cultivate and diversify your social media feed. Have a social media feed that has all kinds of people on it, not just the thin, straight-bodied, whatever influencer. Have people that are talking about body acceptance, that are in bigger bodies and talking about this stuff. Really try to open your mind. And again, when you see a post that maybe you're uncomfortable, like, ooh, but like, I don't know, I feel like that's like too much. Just stop and let it sit. Just let it sit. I don't have to be that person who's in that bigger body, but I can accept that what they're saying might be true. I think that's really important. And something actually that I wanted to mention before that I forgot, that I see in my notes here, is a lot of Jewish clothing brands, they're wonderful and great. They don't make clothing sizes for children that have any kind of body shape. And that's a big problem. And so often when parents go shopping, and I have some friends who own clothing stores, they'll hear the parents blaming the child's body versus it doesn't fit. How come? Because this clothing was not made for a child who isn't shaped straight up and down. So don't blame the clothing. Don't blame the child. Sorry, blame the clothing. You know what? Ugh, this dress. Like, what? Why didn't they make it properly? You know, it doesn't fit that. You know, okay, we'll just get a bigger size. The sizing is so off. And by the way,
Right.
lying. Like, we know that you can go to Zara and get a size small, and it like doesn't fit a size small. It fits like a size negative small, right? Their sizing has changed. Like now their mediums are their smalls. So we don't focus on the size. We just focus, how does it feel on your body? Do you feel like it looks like it sits comfortably? Do you like how it looks? Right? We don't use the words flattering, because what does that mean? Do you like how you feel in this? Is it comfortable on you? So just talking about that, because again, I think that the Jewish clothing brands, unfortunately, I think they do contribute to a lot of parents feeling stressed about their children's bodies, because they want to go and give money to these, you know, companies, but then their children don't fit into the clothes and they get upset about that. So I think they need to do better for women's clothing as well, you know, just more inclusive sizes.
And I think it depends on the style too. Like these days, it's a lot of these long, flowy, you know, looser floral dresses, let's say. And it's like, oh, it makes it a lot easier, you know, to walk into a store and buy something.
It's definitely better for women for sure. But I think for boys and girls, boys specifically, there's those skinny straight pants.
Oh, the skinny pants. Yeah.
And tight shirts. And if your son has a belly, or maybe he's got thicker legs, or he's a more muscular build, he's not going to fit into that stuff. And then he feels like, well, all my friends are wearing it. Why can't I? And it's like, you know what? This look is like ridiculous. It just doesn't make sense. It's not for everybody. And like, that's okay. And I know you want to look like your friends. Let's find something that feels comfortable and still looks good. You know, we don't blame them. Oh, you know what? Maybe you should swim a little more at Bubby's pool this summer and then you'll fit into the shirt. You know, don't say that. It's the clothing. It's not the body. So I think that we have to empower ourselves with some, you know, I'm not a huge fan of mantras, but I do like mantras that don't feel fluffy and whatever. I'm a very like practical. I always say, like, if I was like in yeshiva, I'd be a Talmud of the Rav, like very practical, no nonsense. This is me. So I like these mantras that are very, I think, like I said, practical and not so fluffy, but you could say the shape and size of my body does not define me. Having that bad body image day. You know what? The shape and size of my body does not define me today. My body did not change overnight. This is a big one, because you could feel great, you know, today, and then tomorrow you feel horrible. Nothing changed in my body. I'm not going to get on the scale to decide if it did either, by the way, because it doesn't tell me. My body is not different yesterday than it is today. This is my only body, and I'm going to give it the love and respect that it deserves. I'm going to show it gratitude today. So I'm going to feed myself, walk, go to work, smile, hang out with my friends. I can trust myself in my body. That's another thing. When we're feeling bad about ourselves, I'm out of control. I'm so lazy. I just eat everything. I can trust myself in my body. There's nothing wrong with taking up space. Even if I'm in a bigger body, there's nothing wrong with that. I'm told that I need to be smaller. I need to shrink myself. I need to not exist. But there's nothing wrong with taking up space. And then I don't need to change my body for someone else. Even if I know I'm going to get a comment from my mother or my sister, I can tell them, please don't talk about my body. And I have to internalize, I don't need to change my body for someone else. And I'm okay just today as I am. And this is hard work, by the way. It's so much easier said than done. And I know when I'm saying this, people are like, yeah, easier said than done, Rachel. Yes, easier said than done, but still do the work.
Yeah, I mean, you have to have those written up and put on your mirror. I mean, those are really, really powerful.
Have a reminder on your phone, you know, like every such and such time. Like, here, there you go.
That's a good idea.
Your body didn't change overnight. I love that. Oh my gosh, Rachel, this has been an absolutely phenomenal conversation. I am so happy that you shared your time and your expertise and your wisdom with us. And I know our listeners, I feel like our listeners are going to just benefit tremendously from this episode. So thank you very, very much for coming on.
Thank you.
Thanks, Rachel.
Thank you.
Here's this episode's takeaway. There are actual steps we can take to improve our body image. So that is good news.
Yay.
And here's some practical things you can do. Here are 5. Number 1, identify and challenge negative thoughts that we're having about ourselves and our body. 2, appreciate your body for what it can do. That's yours, Rifki. 3, focus on the positive aspects of our body, not just the positive things that our body can do, but the things that we do like and appreciate about our body. Number 4, avoid comparisons. Those can be very challenging to our confidence. And finally, number 5, surround yourself with body positive people.
Very nice. Very nice. You have made it to the end of an episode of Deep Meaningful Conversations. thank you for coming all the way to the end. You know, we're doing this for you. So if you could do a little something for us, go ahead and subscribe, rate, and review. DMC, wherever you listen. And your rating does make a big difference to us and the growth of our podcast and helping people find our podcast. So we appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, we really do. And you can email us at dmc@meaningfulminutes.org with any questions, feedback, or suggestion for episodes. You know, a lot of people who know us will send us voice notes about what we did right about a certain episode and even what we missed, what they felt was missing. And we so appreciate that.
Yes.
Because that helps us grow and think deeply about our next episodes. You got that one? Think deeply about our next DMC.
Very nice. Very nice.
Finally, thank you to the hardworking team at Meaningful Minute for all the incredible work that they do for DMC and beyond. So we're so grateful. And we'll see you guys next episode.